There was a chair at the dinner table that was always empty. Not broken, not removed, just empty. And everyone pretended it was fine. You learned early that needing someone was dangerous, that love was something that showed up when it wanted to and disappeared just as quietly. You didn't cry about it, not really. You just got really, really good at not needing anyone. But here's what nobody tells you. That silence, that empty chair, it didn't just hurt you then. It's still shaping you now. Every relationship, every fear of being left, every time you say, "I'm fine," when you're not. This is the psychology of people who grew up with absent parents. And once you understand it, everything starts to make sense. When most people hear absent parent, they picture someone who walked out, packed a bag, drove away, and never came back. But absence has many faces. There's the parent who was physically present, but emotionally somewhere else, who sat at the table but never really looked at you, who answered questions but never asked any, whose eyes were always fixed on somewhere you couldn't reach. There's the parent consumed by addiction, by work, by their own unhealed wounds, too heavy with their own pain to carry yours. There's the parent who left after a divorce, who showed up on birthdays and then didn't, whose love felt like a flight schedule, predictable but never staying. And there's the parent who died, leaving behind a grief so complicated that a child barely has the words for it. All of these are forms of absence, and what they share is this: a child left trying to make sense of a love that didn't show up the way they needed it to. Psychologists call what happens next attachment disruption, and it's one of the most quietly devastating experiences a human being can have because it happens so early, so subtly, that most people don't even know it happened. When a parent is absent, a child doesn't think, "My parent has a problem." A child thinks, "There must be something wrong with me." That's the brutal logic of childhood. You don't have enough experience to understand adult failure, so you absorb it, you internalize it, you carry it like it belongs to you. And over time, that becomes the story you tell yourself about who you are. The first wound is shame, a quiet, bone-deep belief that you are somehow not enough, not lovable enough, not interesting enough, not worth staying for. The second wound is hypervigilance. You become an expert at reading rooms, sensing moods, detecting the earliest signs that someone might leave, so you can brace yourself before it happens again. The third wound is chronic self-reliance taken too far. You learned that depending on others leads to disappointment, so you became fiercely independent, capable, self-sufficient. On the surface, that looks like strength, but underneath, it's a wall. The fourth wound is chronic loneliness, not the kind that comes from being alone, the kind that sits right next to you in a room full of people, the feeling of being fundamentally unseen. And the cruelest wound of all, you often don't even connect these feelings to what happened in childhood. You just think this is who you are. Adult relationships become the stage where childhood wounds play out. If you grew up with an absent parent, there's a high chance you developed what psychologists call an insecure attachment style, either anxious or avoidant. Anxious attachment looks like this. You love deeply, maybe too intensely. You need constant reassurance. You check your phone obsessively. A delayed text becomes evidence that they're pulling away. You give and give and give, terrified that if you stop, they'll realize you're not worth staying for. Avoidant attachment looks like this. Intimacy makes you uncomfortable, not because you don't want connection, you desperately do, but because closeness feels like a threat. The closer someone gets, the more you pull back. You tell yourself you don't need anyone. You cancel plans. You go cold. And some people, especially those with complicated, inconsistent parental absence, develop fearful attachment, wanting closeness and terrifying themselves with it at the same time.
Push and pull, get close, then run. Feel loved, and then convince yourself it isn't real. Sound familiar? What's important to understand is that none of this is a character flaw. It's a survival strategy that worked when you were small, and now it's misfiring in the wrong context. You adapted to an unpredictable world. You just forgot to update your settings. Let's talk about the things that don't make it onto therapy intake forms. The way you over-explain yourself in conversations, terrified of being misunderstood and rejected. The way you rehearse difficult conversations in the shower for days before having them. The way you draw yourself to emotionally unavailable people, not because you enjoy the pain, but because it feels familiar, comfortable, like home in the worst possible way. The way you sabotage things when they get too good, because a part of you doesn't believe good things stay. The way you downplay your own needs until they become emergencies, because asking for help always felt like too much of a risk. And the way you hold on to people long past the point of your own well-being, because being abandoned feels worse than suffering in place. And the way you sometimes feel like a stranger in your own life, like you're watching yourself from a distance, performing normal, while something underneath stays very quiet. These aren't random quirks. They are responses, adaptations, perfectly logical given what you learned. But here's the truth that changes everything. The story you learned about yourself was never the true story. It was just the only one available at the time. Healing from an absent parent doesn't mean erasing what happened. It doesn't mean forgiving on demand, or pretending it didn't matter, or convincing yourself it made you stronger. It means something quieter and more radical than all of that. It means learning, maybe for the first time, that you were always worth staying for. Therapy helps, not the kind that rehashes every wound in exhausting detail, but the kind that gently helps you rewrite the story you've been telling yourself. Attachment-focused therapy in particular has shown remarkable results. Relationships help too, safe ones, where someone stays, where they're consistent, where they do what they say they'll do, every time. That tells your nervous system something new. Journaling, mindfulness, community, these aren't buzzwords, they're anchors, ways of giving your inner child the presence they were denied. And awareness itself heals. Just knowing why you do what you do, that alone breaks the automatic cycle. You see the pattern, you name it, and for a moment, you're no longer inside it, you're standing beside it. That's where choice begins. If any part of this video felt like it was written about you, that feeling is recognition, and recognition is the beginning of something. You didn't get the childhood you deserved. That's real, and it matters, and you don't have to minimize it. But you are not sentenced to live inside it forever. The empty chair shaped you. It doesn't have to define you. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next one.